Hi, I'm Erin with Homeschool Connections, and we're here today with Jason Negri. Jason, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, it's great to have you here to talk about your courses and what you do here. So let's start off with what courses do you offer for Homeschool Connections?
I teach 3 courses for Homeschool Connections. One of them is a Introduction to Civics, American Civics and Government. The next one is Introduction to the Law, which is usually I insist that people take the civics course first before they take the law course,
Right.
only because it's a little bit more advanced. And then I also have a ProLife Bootcamp that I've co-taught with Professor Ed Rivet. So
Oh, fun.
and that's more of a specialized niche market type of course.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. I would love to talk about that boot camp first. Is that okay?
Sure.
Tell me about that boot camp, what it's like, and it sounds like a really great benefit for any student of any age.
It is for students who are particularly interested in pro-life issues and want to learn more in-depth stuff. This is not a general type course, so to speak. It's for students who already have awareness and interest, I think, in the topics. And we most people, when they hear pro-life, they only think of the abortion issue. But we cover everything from embryonic stem cell research to abortion, through euthanasia and assisted suicide, and end-of-life medical ethics, and everything in between. So, and there's a focus on communication, honing the students' communication skills so that they can be more effective advocates and spokespersons on these issues,
Nice.
in writing and speaking. So, yeah, it's a fun class.
Very cool. It would really help the student to have I don't want to say arsenal because that sounds like it's a negative to it, but have a bag of wonderful tools and skills.
It is. Exactly. It's providing them with the tools that they might need to discuss these things coherently in the public square.
Awesome. And that's in recording, right? That's a recorded course?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Very cool. I think all of your courses are really critical courses, personally. Tell me about the other two. Seriously.
I agree, but I'm biased, so.
No, they're very important to have in today's society and as Catholic Christians. So tell me about the other courses too.
Okay, so the American Civics and Government class is essentially a focus on this thing that we call civics. So it's kind of an amalgamation of a little bit of history, a little bit of politics, a little bit of political science and theory, and study of the founding of this American experiment in ordered liberty that we call America.
And what age, real quick, what age is this for? Is it all high school or is it?
It's for high school, and I usually recommend upper high school because we're dealing with current events, and they're the sorts of things that parents of younger students may not necessarily want their kids to be exposed to yet. So obviously, I don't turn anybody away, but it's marketed as a high school course, and I usually do tell parents, I strongly suggest your child at least be in 11th grade to cover the content we're going to be talking about.
A pretty meaty course.
Yes, it is. Because in addition to covering the course material, talking about specifically the founders and reading the original documents and kind of wrestling with these concepts of liberty and how do you balance one person's interests against another. In addition to that historical and government perspective, we are also at the same time talking about current events. And I assign the students to read current events, to keep up on them, to make sure that they're aware of what's going on, and they sometimes come up in the class as well.
That's awesome. And then that course leads into the next course.
Right. And the last course I teach is Introduction to Law, which is a maybe a 2.5, 3 month long course where we very briefly and superficially, but at least we get into the different areas of law that a first-year law student would take in their course. So we have one class on property, one class on contracts, 2 classes on torts, 2 classes on criminal law, 1 class on constitutional law, basically just going through, we can only just barely touch on these things, but the students are actually going to be reading case law, in most cases, summarizations, because those case opinions can be pretty boring sometimes, but they try to pick the interesting ones, and they are reading the actual words written by the courts that have shaped the development of our jurisprudence in America over the past 240 years.
So I would guess this is for upper high school students as well.
It is. The content of itself, of the stuff that we talk about, particularly in criminal law, can also get a little dicey. So we want to make sure that the students are mature enough to be able to handle it. And also, it's a proper progression from the civics course, talking about government and the fundamental structure of what we've got going on here in America. And then the law course is a little bit more specific, talking about these little areas of law that touch everybody's lives, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
So fantastic discussions in both classes, but particularly in the law class.
Yeah. Tell me about the best type of student. Is it someone who's going into law? Who will benefit the most for these courses, in these courses?
I don't know that I would say that only a student going into law would benefit most, because first of all, the civics course, well, we're all Americans, right? We all need to have some level of awareness and engagement with our republic. Everything we see going on in society around us, we shake our heads and wish that the people involved understood civics, that we wish they understood the nature of our government before they start complaining about it and replacing it with something else that they don't understand.
Right.
So everybody really should be taking that class. And the introduction to law class, I was surprised when I went to law school myself, just how much of an impact all of these things that I learned about in law school have on me in my daily life. I understand the way American society works so much better having gone to law school. And I wish I had just a little bit of a taste of it when I was in high school, to kind of understand what these things are, at least understand these different concepts of property law. What does it mean when you sign a lease? You know, many of these students are going to go on to rent an apartment at some point, or rent a house at some point in their lives. It would really help them to understand what it means to sign a lease. What does it mean to own private property? What does it mean to take somebody else's property from them? What are these things that we call the rights of ownership? I mean, there's just so much that we take for granted in society that we just kind of expect the next generation to understand. And it would really help to have it affirmatively taught to them, ideally by their parents. But there's a lot of things here that even I, as a parent, didn't necessarily know until I went to law school. So I really think they'd be helpful for everybody.
I just was going to say, I'm hearing you say, no, this isn't just for someone going into law. This is for every high school student to understand and to be able to function super well within our culture and our society. So I agree with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what uniquely qualifies you to be teaching these courses? I know you mentioned you went to law school. Tell us about your daily life and who you are and what you bring to the classroom.
Okay, well, yeah, I was kind of a late vocation to the law myself. I didn't actually go to law school until I was 30. So I already had a career and a wife and 3 kids, and decided to go to law school later on. So we packed up, left everything, and went to law school. And now I'm a practicing attorney. I've got my own private practice, and I'm also a local elected official. So I've got it from both the practice of law perspective, as well as from being somebody who has to go through the electoral process every 4 years myself in order to maintain my job.
Right. Tell me about a little something about you that maybe someone wouldn't know just looking at your picture in the catalog or reading your bio on the website.
Okay, I have 5 children, and there are huge gaps between them. Like, we had the first 3 really close together, and then a 6-year gap, and then one, and then a 9-year gap, and another. So there's actually there's 19 years between my oldest and my youngest, and that makes for some very weird family dynamics sometimes.
Keeping you young, I'm sure.
Yes,
right?
Yes, it does.
That's right. Oh, how fun. Well, if somebody is excited about these courses and wants to get their teen into your courses and wants to maybe reach out to you and learn a little bit more, or has some questions for you, what's the best way to reach you?
They can always reach me through Homeschool Connections website, but my law practice, I have my own website for that, if that's more convenient for people. And it's just my first and last name is my domain name. So www.jasonnegri.com, and you can contact me through my website. And honestly, my email is the same. It's jason@jasonnegri.com. So all sorts of ways to reach me.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for sharing about your courses. These are critical courses. These are really important courses.
I know every tutor probably says that about their own courses, but I really do think mine are essential for everybody.
I believe so. I believe so. Thanks. It was great to speak with you. And if you're watching this today and you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to homeschoolconnections@gmail.com, or call the toll-free number, or, as Jason said, reach out to him through his website or email. Thanks again, Jason.
Thank you, Erin. Bye-bye.